Welcome to the last bit of informational information that you're going to get in this course. All right, so this video is the last thing, and what are we going to talk about? A little bit about the introduction paragraph and a bit more about the conclusion paragraph. I've already discussed in the previous video in this module, as well as hinted upon and have readings for the introduction paragraph in the previous module. All right, so if we're a little fuzzy, feel free to go back. What I want all of us to focus on, though, is how a good college level paper uses the introduction and the conclusion to set a table and to look forward to the next meal or paper or argument. And that's the biggest thing that I want us all to pay attention to. Okay, I'm going to be using the student example paper, which is available in this module on this instructional page. So if you want to follow along, you have it, but I'm going to show it to you here by sharing my screen so that you can see it. And if you want to revisit it, you have access to it. As I said before, I am not really going to focus too much on the introduction because the introduction is just simply setting the table. As we can see in this student example here, the exploitation of the working class is far more common than one might realize. You know, David Foster Wallace doesn't talk about, the working class. Garnet Cottigan doesn't talk about the working class. This student decided that this was the problem that they wanted to address. This is the important thing. And it goes in the introduction all the way up until they introduce their texts on what is the problem and why it's important. And once that groundwork, once that is set, then we introduce who's talking and from what are we pulling, right? Kristen Allred describes this fixed way of thinking in her article, The Causes and Effects of Filter Bubbles and How to Break Free. You haven't read that yet. You don't need to know what it is. But in the introduction, the author assumes that the reader knows what is going on as far as like, this is how papers work. You don't need to have read the example. You don't need to have read the text because the author is introducing what we're talking about, who we're using as evidence, and then throughout the paper is using the evidence from that text, or actually from two texts, as a way of making their specific argument. Again, we're not just repeating anything that is coming from the authors, from the texts. We have our own issue, our own problem that is important that we are going to fix. And as we move through here, we can also see that after we introduce Allred and we discuss how Allred works in conjunction with or along with the argument that is being set here by the author, then we introduce our second text, David Foster Wallace, and we do the same thing. We let them know who's talking and from where. So we introduce our author, we introduce our texts, and everything is tied together to this specific topic that is being set out here in the introduction. And as I pointed out before, and before that, and before that, and the readings even state, you can see in highlighting here, that's the thesis. The thesis is specific. It is found at the end of the actual paragraph, the introduction paragraph. It's not in the middle. It's not at the top. It's at the end. Your introduction paragraph needs to follow this formatting. What are we talking about? Who are we talking about? And now I'm going to present my argument. Basically, when it comes to an introduction paragraph, you need to make sure that you are setting the table. All right. It's just like going to a restaurant or having dinner at an aunt's house or grandma's house or whomever, right? They'll put down a tablecloth or they'll put down placemats and they'll have a plate there, and then fork and left. You'll have the fork on the left side. You'll have the spoon and knife on the right. You have a napkin. Maybe there's a cup or a glass for water or whatever your beverage is. They'll have a centerpiece with flowers, or maybe Then they'll start bringing out certain elements of the meal, like the bread and stuff. It's all on the table. We're setting the table. That's what the introduction paragraph does. We know what the meal is going to be. And if you're at a restaurant, you know what they also do? It's like they have a menu there. Or they have like, this is what today's prepared meal is going to be, right? It's there. We know what we're talking about. And here are all of the tools and the things that we need to enjoy this meal. The cup and the napkin and the plate and the fork and all of that stuff is important. Your authors are the plate and the fork and the knife and the cup. That's all that stuff. The problem, the issue that we are talking about, the topic of this paper is basically like what the menu is. It's like, that's what this meal is all about. And here are all the things that you need to know to enjoy it, to be satisfied by it. And then every single body paragraph after this table setting is a part of the meal. Okay? It's all part of the actual meal itself. Every single body paragraph is a course. Maybe you have your first body paragraph is the appetizers. Your next body paragraph is the main course, right? And then the last body paragraph is the dessert, right? And all of those things, it's like you have to use your fork and the knives and your plates and your cups and everything. You have to use all of that stuff. That's what a paper is. You're setting the table and then you're serving the meal. Then the problem comes is, what do you do at the end of the meal? The conclusion paragraph. This is the thing that gets a little bit difficult. You just ate this really great meal and you ate it with another person or maybe several other people. You don't want to say, you know, that steak was really great and I really loved that salad and it tasted just like this. It's like, you know what? We all had the salad. We all had the same meal. Our dessert was all a brownie. We all had the same drinks. I like Kool-Aid too, but that doesn't mean that we need to talk about it. You don't need to repeat yourself. We all have the same meal. We all just read through this paper. We get it. You don't need to repeat it. But you know what you should do is like, oh my Lord, this chef, this cook, my grandma, whoever, they made this really great meal. And I really like it. And it shows me that grandma or this chef or these cooks, that they really know what they're doing and they really satisfied me. I'm looking forward to maybe the next time, instead of getting the chicken, I'm going to get the fish. I'm going to try the fish next time because they've already proven to me that they can do it with chicken. Now I'm going to try it with fish. Or maybe instead of drinking Jameson whiskey with my meal, maybe I'm going to do a clear liquid, a clear liquor. Maybe I'll have martinis. Maybe I'll have wine. Maybe I'll just stick with water, right? And when it comes to having a meal, if you had chicken, you have a regular fork. If you have fish, you have a different fork, right? So it's always looking forward, not backwards. You set the table. We ate the meal. You don't need to tell me how great the meal was. We all know how great the meal was. Now we want to look forward to the next time we get to eat here. And what does that even mean in a paper? Well, let me show you. This is the beginning, and I'm going to go all the way down in the example paragraphs here, the example paper. I'm going to show you what this conclusion looks like. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You have the opportunity to do that, but I'm going to go through some of it. We should not have to sell our labor for a fraction of what it's worth. We kind of talked about that during the, so this cook has already given us a great meal. Cool. We should not have to sell our labor for a fraction of what it's worth. That's this most, it's like, delicious. Ah, you remember? Delicious. Everything beyond it is looking forward. Rather than choosing between happiness or stability, our success is not measured on how much money we make or how many hours we spend working. When we have the proper education and tools to defend ourselves, blah, blah, blah. It's like, this is why the meal was so good. And that's why I know that instead of getting chicken next time, I want to get the fish. We're looking forward to the next thing. It's like, this really worked. I can't wait to hear and taste. Bless me. Excuse me. I cannot wait to have this next meal. And everything from there is all looking forward. It's not looking back. There will always be other opportunities for us as a working class, but for you, the employer, you will be the one stunk on a sinking ship if you do not comply. I don't think they talked about a ship at all because we're looking forward. We have another meal to think about. The ship might be a different example. And that's the thing, is that we can look forward to another meal, not backwards at the one that we just ate. This conclusion, my friends, does not repeat itself. It ties everything together. We're all sitting here at the same table. That's the commonality. But we're really looking forward to the next meal, right? An introduction sets the table. The body paragraphs are the meal. And the conclusion is thinking about how much you can't wait to get to the next meal. I hope that metaphor makes sense. There's a quote by East Bay rapper E40. It says, always hustle forward, never backward. Progression, right? You want to always progress. You always want to go forward. You don't want to look backwards all the time. And what I'm telling you is that it's important that you look forward to the next paper or the next idea. Your conclusion ties everything together, of course, but it doesn't focus only on repeating what we have already said. It uses what we have said to say, this is why it's important moving forward. This is why it's important progressing. Thank you, E40, for that wonderful quote. Don't hustle backward, always forward. Progress, move forward. How can this argument help us with other things? If you're focusing on working in, food service, it's like, think about how this same thing could work in the education system. That's moving forward. It's a new idea. You're not starting a new argument, but you're illustrating how your argument from the paper, the meal that we just had, how this would work moving forward. All right, which reminds me of this old Greek myth of Orpheus. Orpheus was a musician. He had the love of his life. And she was taken to the underworld. She was taken to hell. She died. She went to hell. The underworld. She could, she wasn't among the living anymore. So what did Orpheus do? He worked really hard to figure out how to save her. How do I save my beautiful wife? How do I save the love of my life? How do I do it? He was able to figure out how to go to the underworld. And when he got to the underworld, he figured all this stuff out. He got down there. He figured out how to argue with Hades, how to tell Hades, like, this is why this is so important. And this is what it was, an argument. And he won the argument. And Hades told him this, all right, I'm going to school you, Orpheus. You may have the love of your life back, but you need to walk out of hell. You need to walk out of the underworld. She will be behind you. If you look back at all at her, whatever reason, she will get taken back and stay forever in eternity in the underworld. Orpheus, as smart as he was, he had this huge argument. He had this huge amount of work that he did to get there, to rescue her, which he did. The only thing that he had to not do was look backwards. And it took everything inside of him not to look backwards, because it's like, I love looking at the love of my life. Why would I never look at her? Why would I not do that? I'm told not to. Don't do it. Get almost out of the mouth of hell, almost out of the mouth of the underworld. And something happens. There's a noise behind him. He's like, we're almost there. I just need to make sure that she's okay. There were noises the entire time, but somehow it's like, I'm almost done. Gotta look at her. And what happened? The love of his life got sucked back into the underworld, never to be rescued again. And that's a little dramatic, but what I am telling you is exactly what I guess in this metaphor, I am Hades. I hope not. But what I am saying is this: Don't look back. Always look forward. You will be rewarded with all of your hard work, for all of the hard work that you did, the argument that you built, the way of figuring out how to fix this thing. You will be rewarded. Just don't look backwards. Always hustle forward. Never backward. Progress. Move forward. Because if you look back, then you're going to lose all of your momentum. You're going to lose all of that stuff that you worked for. All right. And I don't know any English professor here or anywhere else, for that matter, that will use food and serving techniques, East Bay hardcore hip hop, and Greek myths to tell you how to do a conclusion paragraph. So please, I hope that all of these metaphors and examples worked. Use the student example. That paper got an A-. Okay? It's a great paper. Don't copy everything that the student did, but I'm saying follow the spirit of what the student is doing. Set the table, feed us the meal, and look forward, always look forward, always look forward. I hope this makes sense. If not, please contact me. I highly suggest everybody take the time this week to work on your papers. Contact me if you need me. There's nothing better than talking through your ideas. If you don't want to talk and you just want to type out a thing, send me a sample paragraph and tell me what you want me to take a look at. Here's my conclusion. This is what I did and this is what I think I'm doing. Is there anything I need to pay attention to? Be specific, but I will definitely help you. Take this time, take me as a resource, take all of the videos, all of the readings, all of everything, because everything is scaffolded. Everything ties together in this course. I said it before, I've said it again and again, and I'm saying it one more time now. Everything ties together. All right. So you have all that information, and if it doesn't help, if it doesn't work, contact me and we'll figure it out. Okay. I hope this helps. If not, you know how to get a hold of me, you smart people. Now, smart people, go do what it is that you do.